Shout out a team that could trade up in the NFL draft. You're watching NFL Daily by Chat Sports, and we're going to be live for all 7 rounds of the 2020 NFL draft. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you got those notifications turned on. And as you can see below, my video goal for this show, 200 comments. All right, let's get into 7 teams that can make a trade. The first team that we're going to kick it to is the Miami Dolphins, who have 5 picks in the top 56. And the Dolphins were very active in free agency, which to me seems this team might actually be trying to win football games this year, and I'm glad that they're doing it. And I think if you're Miami, you got to be looking at the quarterback position. The one quarterback that we've been talking about a ton here on NFL Daily is Tua out of Alabama. And I think if the Dolphins really want to lock in getting Tua, you might have to trade up to 3 with the Lions. You might have to trade up to 4 with the Giants just to make sure a team like the Los Angeles Chargers doesn't get them. So if you want to just talk about picks, though, we don't even have to just talk about the Dolphins trading up from pick 5. They could trade up using one of their second-round picks. They could trade up with one of their 3 first-round picks. They have a lot of assets, so don't be surprised if the Dolphins are very, very active on draft day. And I mentioned Tua because when you look at the quarterback situation going on in Miami, yes, they've been tanking, I think, for Tua. I love Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's really fun to watch, but let's be real. Not the future. Neither is Josh Rosen. And I think if you really want to convince yourself that, hey, this AFC East is finally up for grabs now that Tom Brady's with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, maybe you got to go out and get a top-fledged quarterback like Tua. But when I think about the Dolphins and I think about potentially maybe that second quarterback drafted, the 2 names that come to mind for me are Tua and Justin Herbert. But this show, if this is the first time you've ever seen anything that we do here at Chat Sports, we're a live and interactive YouTube channel. So I want you to go down to the comments and let me know. Pick a quarterback for 2020. Type T for Tua or type H for Justin Herbert. All right, when you look at the numbers, though, I think Herbert, he's been more impressive, I think, throughout his career because he started 4 years at Oregon, which I do think is very important in this day and age in the NFL. But if you want to talk about just pure upside alone, let's get it clear, it's Tua. Now, I want you guys to subscribe to Chat Sports. Go ahead, click that big red button. The link below, it's in the descriptions. If you can't remember that, it's youtube.com/chatsportstv. But we make videos around the NFL draft the entire offseason, okay? And we were the #1 most watched draft coverage last year, up to 7 million views in the first week. So if you love the NFL draft and if you want to have a good time watching some vids, go ahead and click that sub button. Let's go to the next team here that I think could potentially trade up on draft day. It's the Chargers, and right now they have pick number 6, but they also, I think, could trade up at pick 37, which is a second-round pick, into the first round if they don't get the quarterback that they're looking for. Now, Los Angeles has said that they are comfortable sticking with Tyrod Taylor, or Easton Stick. However, I don't know if I believe them because, again, would you trust them? That's something that we're going to talk about. But when you look at all their draft picks, I think if you are this team who, in 2018, you were a playoff caliber team. Last season, battled some injuries. Phillip Rivers, he decided to go to the Indianapolis Colts. I think this team, with one good quarterback, with maybe another roster move or 2, you could get right back to dominating the AFC West. And if you want to beat the Chiefs, I do think it means you have to add a quarterback because no disrespect to Tyrod Taylor, no disrespect to Easton Stick. You're not going to compete in that division when these are your 2 quarterbacks. And for a team that's trying to sell, for a team that's really trying to build a fan base at their new stadium, I don't think these are the 2 faces that you want really, truly leading your franchise. So when I think about the top 3 quarterbacks in this year's draft class, I think it's Tua. I think it's Justin Herbert. And then the other name that I think I've seen in mock drafts is Jordan Love. And I think if you are the Chargers, and if Tua and Justin Herbert are not there for you, maybe at pick 6 or you pass on them, you could look to see them going up and getting a Jordan Love, maybe late first round, using that pick 37 if he slides. So the question that I'm going to ask everyone right now, okay? Who will be the second quarterback drafted? And I want you to vote A, B, or C. And I'm going to make this the pinned comment on today's video. So you might get hit with an ad break while the ad is playing. I want you to scroll on down and let me know who's going to be the second quarterback drafted. Let's get in now to the Las Vegas Raiders, who have 2 picks in the first round at 12 and at 19, but they do have also 5 picks in the top 100. However, no second-round picks. Now, I listened to John Gruden. I've listened to Mike Mayock. They're looking for versatility, and they're looking to fill multiple needs. When I think about the 2 players that I think that this Raiders team could trade up for, I think of Isaiah Simmons, linebacker out of Clemson, and I think of Jeff Okudah, cornerback out of Ohio State. When you're the Raiders, you have a lot of needs at wide receiver. And in fact, I think at pick 12, if one of the top 3 wide receivers are there, they could take it. But there's always different situations in every single draft that goes down. What happens if some of the receivers are taken? What happens if a player like Isaiah Simmons or Jeff Okudah starts to slide? So what I did here is I tried to put together an idea of what it might cost the Raiders to trade up and get Isaiah Simmons. Now, I want you to think about this. This trade that you're about to see is based on the fact of Simmons sliding down in the pick range of 7, 8, 9. Because I think if he gets in that range, that's when the Raiders start to really think about, should we trade up to get him? Well, let's say Isaiah Simmons goes in the top 4, which I do expect. And maybe, like we just did in our fan-led mock draft, you see Jeff Okudah slide down the board. I think both in terms of price is going to be about the same. So I think if Jeff Okudah slides, again, in that 7, 8, 9 range, you could see the Raiders go out and get Okudah because depth-wise at that position, it's not looking too good after they lost Eli Apple. So if you had to pick between Okudah and Isaiah Simmons to trade up for, who would you do it for? I mean, Isaiah Simmons to me is an absolute freak athlete. Jeff Okudah is the #1 cornerback in this year's draft. So remember, my video goal is 200 comments, so please help me get to that. I want you to go on down there, okay, and type in the comments section, who would you rather pick a player to trade up for? Type O for Jeff Okudah or type S for Isaiah Simmons. Also, while you're down there leaving your comments, click on this link, chatsports.com/NFL draft hat. Rep your favorite team because the hats, they are now available. You can get a flat bill. You can get the curved brim hat. Let me know which one you guys prefer. Maybe we'll try to find a better offer for y'all. But again, these are under $40, and it's at chatsports.com/NFL draft hat. If you can't remember the link, I'll put it in the comments so you can just click on it. Well, it'll be in the description as well. But for a limited time, these ones are going quick because for the first time in a long time, the draft hats actually look pretty dope. So go rep your team. They match a whole bunch of different color schemes. 49ers, chatsports.com/NFL draft hat. Let's go to the AFC West here, the Denver Broncos, who have pick number 15. And when I really think about all their needs, the biggest need that comes out to me is wide receiver. And if you've watched a lot of our mock drafts, if you respect what Tom and I say, I think the Jets, the Raiders, and 49ers could all be in play for a wide receiver. What does that mean? It means Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs could be all off the board by the time the Broncos pick at 15. And if you're Denver and you want to build around your young quarterback in Drew Lock, maybe you think about the idea of trading up to pick number 10 with the Cleveland Browns, pick number 9 with the Jags, who have shown that they're willing to trade down. So for the Broncos, they have that pick number 15. And round 2, they got pick 46. They are still trying to build the defense. They are still trying to put extra assets around that offense. But I think when you look at what the Broncos have done just the last 2 years in terms of wide receiver talent, I like Deshaun Hamilton a lot out of Penn State. I like Cortland Sutton out of SMU. No disrespect to those 2 receivers. I don't think that they are wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 caliber. But if you insert a Henry Ruggs, a CeeDee Lamb, a Jerry Jeudy, that really transforms this offense. And I think, it gives you the ability to be able to compete because remember, when you're going up against the Chiefs, when you're going up against Patrick Mahomes, you need to be able to move the football. Point blank, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs, the Broncos would absolutely love to get one of those players. So we want you to predict this. So again, go down in the comments and I want you to argue who's going to win the AFC West, okay? If you want to predict what the entire standings are going to be, go for it. I'm all about it. So Chargers, Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos. In 2019, it went Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders, Chargers. Maybe that helps you out a little bit, but I want you to go down into the comments because we're trying to get 200, and I want you to argue who you think is going to win the AFC West this upcoming season. Let's go to the NFC South where we have the Atlanta Falcons, and at pick 16 in the first round, this team needs interior defensive line help. They also realistically just need defensive line help. I think the issue with that is I think of two defensive tackles, Derek Brown, Javon Kinlaw. After those top two prospects, honestly, I'd be pretty surprised if another defensive tackle goes in the first round. And it's nothing to do with the talent. I just think that there's so much talent at wide receiver. There's so much early talent at cornerback. There's, some early talent at linebacker. Unfortunately for defensive tackle, it does get pushed down the board a little bit. But if you're the Falcons at pick 16, if you really want to draft the defensive tackle early on, I think you might have to trade up in order to get a Derek Brown, who actually I anticipate going in the top 7, or a Javon Kinlaw, who I anticipate going in the top 10. Because when you look at the Falcons depth chart, they only got 3 defensive tackles. Sure, they're all pretty relatively young, but Tyler Davison, Deidre Sanat, Grady Jarrett, I mean, the only player that I'm really confident in out of that group is Grady Jarrett. The other two, they're more just depth. So for a Falcons team that needs to be able to compete against Drew Brees, for a team that needs to be able to compete against Tom Brady, I mean, you're looking at a very, very competitive division where you need to be able to stop the run, but you also need to be able to get after the quarterback. Interior defensive linemen, they free up the defensive ends, which is something that, again, the Atlanta Falcons don't have a lot of. So when I think of my top 2 DTs, I think of Javon Kinlaw and Derek Brown. So if you had to pick one to draft, who would you go with? Would you go with Kinlaw type J? Or would you go with Derek Brown out of Auburn type D? I personally would go with Derek Brown. I think he's a little bit more versatile. Yes, Javon Kinlaw absolutely dominated at the Senior Bowl. But when I think of overall talent and upside, I am going to go with Derek Brown. I'm typing my D. Sounds weird. That's part of it here on Chat Sports. Let's go to the Minnesota Vikings, who have 12 draft picks and lots of needs. No, that's what happens when you basically have no money in free agency and all your players go test the market. For me, though, this Vikings team, they need to go out and draft multiple defensive backs. Luckily for them, they do have a plethora of draft picks plus 2 picks in the first round. You're looking at pick 22. You're looking at pick 25. One of these came in the Stephon Diggs trade. That's important to remember. But if you're the Vikings team and you're like, okay, I need to get multiple picks, I think you could actually look at them trading up early before like 19, 18 we've done before in mock drafts over the Raiders, who will also be looking for cornerback help. Plus, you got to think about what the Eagles want, right? The Eagles are another team right there at pick 21 who could take a wide receiver, who could take a cornerback. With the Vikings, though, luckily for them, they do have 2 first-round picks, and I do anticipate them being very active on draft day. And the reason why I mentioned multiple players that they need to add to the secondary, I love Harrison Smith. I love Anthony Harris. However, after that, I mean, you can't rely on Mike Hughes. You can't rely on meters. Like, these are just back-end cornerback talent, but that's what happens when you lose Mackenzie Alexander. That's what happens when you lose Trey Waynes. Like, you need to be able to build this defense because, no offense to Kirk Cousins, I love me some Dalvin Cook. But if Minnesota wants to compete in this division, you need to start at defense. So here are some top cornerbacks that I have on my board. I think Jeffrey Okudah is the number 1 guy. Christian Fulton, Tom and I absolutely love. Trayvon Diggs, he does give you a lot of versatility, a pretty tough dude. CJ Henderson, who absolutely killed it at the Combine. I think all these are really good players. Okay, so the last team that could trade up is the Indianapolis Colts, who pulled off a huge trade for DeForest Buckner back during free agency. So now they have no first-round picks, but they do have pick 34 and 44. And I think when they pulled off this trade for Buckner, a lot of people were kind of surprised by it. I know I personally was, because I actually thought the Colts might be interested in drafting a quarterback. But you go out, you get Phillip Rivers, you show that you're trying to win now, and I actually think the Colts smell a little bit of blood in the water after the DeAndre Hopkins trade with him going to the Arizona Cardinals. So for me, the Colts at picks 34, at picks 44, let's just say, okay, Jordan Love falls in the draft, which I think is possible. Let's not forget Drew Lock. He fell all the way to pick 22 last year, and just seems about every single year, a quarterback does seem to fall. What happens if Jordan Love does start falling down the board? The Colts are like, okay, we can invest picks 34 and 44 and go out and get a future quarterback, because Jacoby Brissett, I think, filled in great, was put in a very tough situation last year when Andrew Luck decided to retire, and I thought did okay. But again, he's not the future. Phillip Rivers signed a 1-year, $25 million deal. What happens if they find out that Rivers is actually just, old and over the hill? And no offense to Swag Kelly, I'll take Jordan Love over Swag Kelly any day of the week. But you have to be a little bit worried about Jordan Love. That's just point blank. In 2018, this kid was great. 2019, as you can see on screen, he did show a little bit of regression. But the upside is there if you put some talent around Love. And for the first time in his career, he is going to be throwing to NFL caliber wide receivers. No offense to Utah State, but we're just spitting it real here at Chat Sports. So if you made it all the way to the end of the video, I appreciate you. If you're stuck at home like me, I think here at Chat Sports, we try to be an interactive YouTube channel, but I also want you guys to get to know me as well. Ask me any questions that you have. So if you made it to the end of the video, hit me up on IG at Mitchell Renz 365.